All right, guys. Episode 191. Welcome back. It's been a minute since I've done an episode. I'm still on foot recovery. Coming up on like 3 months pretty much now. And been doing physical therapy and still off work, but probably gonna be going back to work soon. So yeah, good to be here, guys. Guys, I'm grateful that the podcast has allowed me to talk about what I think. And I think that there's a lot that I'm realizing that I don't go into, right? Because I care about what people think, right? Just things with church, things with religion, things with just my life, right? And it's kind of like, it's like that saying, like dance like no one's watching or something, right? You're just like, well, this is the internet, so you can't do that, right? Whatever you throw out there, you gotta be okay with it, and unless you plan on taking it down, right? And I think that there's something beautiful about not taking stuff down, right? Going, hey, oh, I wrote that, um, you know, 10 years ago, or I said that, and then now I have 5 years of episodes, so hopefully there's a progression and there's change. And change is a good thing. And being willing to change, however, is a challenge. And that's what I've been trying to do in these solo episodes is talk about my view on bipolar has changed. Or it's changing, I should say. It's changing, like ing is a continual process, right? So if I had a time machine, I would I would go back and I think deal with the crisis differently, but I can't now. So now I have to deal with the way that I've gone about getting treatment and handling my diagnosis. And as you've heard from me, um, I do think healing's possible. And I think that medicine treats symptoms. And what's causing the symptoms, that is the thing to master. That's the invitation. I would say I see this as, excuse me, I see this as an invitation. I see, is that better? All right. I'm not going to worry about the video. This is not looking great. So, all right. Ready? Hey, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. It's episode 191. I'm your host, Jared. It's been a minute since I've done a solo episode. I'm still recovering from my foot injury, so making my way back to work soon. I'm grateful for this podcast because I get to share with you what I think, and I'm hoping that over time my mind changes, right? And changing the mind is hard, and I guess there's a performance aspect to podcasting, to speaking in front of people, the stuff I do with Nami. So there's a performance element to it because um, there just is. It's kind of hard to get rid of that. But I think that what I've been challenged with certain conversations and people is like to be my authentic self kind of all the time, and I've been in like a deconstruction with how I've gotten help with the chaos with bipolar, right? And the idea is that um I just had someone on my podcast, Michelle. The episode's going to be published soon, and she's been talking about a lot of things I've been talking about, but in a more even better articulated way. And she's got the lived experience of getting off meds and having kind of this journey that she's on of like getting the help through nutrition, through mindfulness, through meditation. And her approach has been like what I've been trying to say too, which is that it's possible to heal. The reason why the healing's not possible is because a lot of times we use medication, and medication doesn't really solve anything. It just it keeps you alive, right? And you guys know my story. I mean, I almost died, right? So it's like staying alive was what I needed, and I mean, not to state the obvious, but I'm still alive, right? And so if I had a time machine, could I go back and redo these things? And deconstructing my approach to the system, the mental health care system, the hospital system, it's like in my own story, I've taken a lot of like pride in those things, right? Like my memory is very good with like, oh, I was at this place and then I was at this place and so it's back to the Matrix thing that I've quoted on here that I'm, getting from my buddy Jacob who brought this up a long time ago, talking like we're just we're plugged into something and we don't even know why we think it's okay. So here's the challenge. The challenge is that people get upset, and I guess this is why social media is like good and bad, right? People get upset if you suggest getting off medication, right? And so you have to ask yourself, why are people getting so upset? Now, I know that look, there's some reasons, right? And on the Michelle podcast that you'll hear, she said, it keeps us safe. So staying on meds keeps us safe. So it's like there's a threat to the safety if you say get off. And I'm like, I get that. I get that. But if it's making people upset, that's interesting to me because I think that's the wrong reaction. And people might get upset that I say that because that's like, well, that's shame or that's judgment. And it's like, no, it's not. And the reason why there's a lot of this, like, don't shame people in this is because people are struggling so much that once they find once they find something that works and helps them, that there's a lot of hope in that, even if it's long term not good for them, right? And that's that's my story. And so the challenge I have with myself is I wrote something at the beginning of the year. It's kind of like a New Year's 2024 prediction. And I had this line that said, I'm not sure I even knew what I meant by it. I just wrote it. Like, and then now I think I know what I mean, if that makes sense. It was kind of just, I wrote, if you want to make it, you got to disappear if you want to make it here. And now that can sound really dark. Like, whoa, what do you mean by disappear? Like, don't ghost people. Hey, don't ghost people. You got it? Ready? All right, write it down. Don't ghost people. Got it. Yeah, just hey, say you're not interested and then I don't know, delete their number. Okay. Don't like comments, guys. Respond. Okay. Disappear if you want to make it here. The idea is that the system and the structure of life is not working. You just waking up every day and just clocking in, you're a slave. You're a slave to the system. You don't know how to think for yourself. And that's what being a slave means. I mean, don't want to get myself in trouble by talking about slavery, but I mean, a slave can think for themselves, but there's a limitation to their thoughts. They're subjected to the master. It's like the Bob Dylan song, "We All Serve Somebody." But like the idea is that no one wants to admit that. I don't want to admit, oh, I wake up and I don't have my own thoughts and I don't think my own things. I'm not brave enough to say what I really think. And if I'm not brave enough to do that, then the default is to have someone else do it for me. Right? That's the matrix part, which is I'd rather be plugged in and have someone else think for me than do the work myself. Which this has to do with everything, not just mental health, not just bipolar, not just a diagnosis. This has to do with religion, with faith, spirituality, your body, health, vaccine conversations, COVID vaccine conversations. That's what I mean. Um, Sports, your body. I mean, everything. I mean, everything. Your relationships. We're pretty uninteresting if we don't think for ourselves. And I mean, there's tons of that going on in my life, right? I mean, even trying to articulate this on the podcast has taken me 5 years to talk like this, right? I mean, I started this thing 5 years ago. I wasn't talking like this then. So that's a sign of hope, like I'm not like shaming myself, like, oh, you should have had the time machine talk back then. Can you get help without medication? I mean, can you get through what you're getting through? And I think it's more than just not doing something. The way that you would go down that path is a lot of work. And so it's interesting when people get upset that you suggest anything but medication. Why? Why are we getting mad? And I don't think the response is using the word should is helpful. Like, well, you shouldn't get mad because that doesn't really um that could make that sensation worse. Right? When anyone says you shouldn't do something related to behavior, right? That just reinforces the thing that the person's doing. Right? Like you shouldn't be mad. That will probably make them more mad. So anyway, that's another conversation for another day why we do that. But I'm holding on like the Switchfoot song, like holding on to a story that for me, I'm talking about myself. I mean, I know I'm talking about other people too, but like to bring it into me, like it's not working very well for me. And I don't like admitting that because that admits failure to some extent, right? Well, the treatment that I've gotten. So let me talk about it like this. The treatment that has to do, okay, the idea that the meds are changing your brain. This is what I talked about with Michelle. So let you guys listen to that episode and stop quoting it, but it was great. The meds change your brain. Okay. Now it helps you stabilize. Okay. But it changes your brain. And my guess is that the window for being on it where it can help you is very small. I don't know if anyone has an exact number. I've never researched it to that extent, but I'm gonna guess it's like 3 months. Okay. Probably shorter than that, really. The reality would be like take something for a month and then get off of it. But the challenge is that the way you get on it usually is because of these chaotic, as I've used the word chaos a lot here, like chaotic episodes. And there's no strategy probably for you, the patient, with your support system, with your doctors to move into something else, right? Meaning like diet, breath work, meditation, mindfulness, these things that do get talked about, but it's always like those things are, it's like a bonus, it's like getting like a bonus disc with a book that you buy. Like read the book, and if you have time, listen to this extra teaching. And the extra teaching is the thing that you really should be listening to. But you're like, oh, it's a bonus. I don't need that. I mean, that is how it is. The idea is get on your meds, take your meds, get some kind of structure in what you're doing with your day. Try to go to bed at the same time. Try to wake up at the same time. But the structure is related to the medication. So it's like take your morning med, try to take it every day at 9 a.m. Try to take your night med at 10 p.m. It doesn't really go much further than that, in my opinion. And the other thing that will get thrown at you would then be, yeah, in the bonus category, it would be like therapy, right? Which would be like, okay, we'll go and talk about how you feel. So the problem is that once you pass the short term mark, right, how you feel is being dictated by the meds. You're going to feel numb. You're not going to feel yourself. You're going to feel flat. Now, I can't speak for everyone on medication. I don't think anyone in this world can. I mean, maybe experts who have studied and done, surveys and trials and stuff like that. Like maybe they could speak, but usually those are like not everyone, right? 1 in 4 people have some kind of mental health thing going on. Okay, let's just, there's some kind of number, right? I think bipolar is like 4% of the population or something like that, or 1%. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. It's a lot of people. The idea is that we want these other forms of treatment to work, right? Meaning like you go to therapy or you do some kind of mindfulness or you meditate. But my experience has been that, again, I'm speaking for myself. I hope people can relate to this that have been on meds for a while. The problem is that when you start feeling numb and dull and not yourself, that's a frustrating, it's like the response to that feeling is not good, right? So there's power in gratitude. There's also power in not having gratitude. You understand, right? Like meaning, oh, I'm actually on, like, I'm sad, I'm frustrated that I don't know my full range of emotions. I would hope that that would like piss you off. It should piss you off, actually. It should make you mad because you're getting robbed of like what it means to be a human just because you had a bad episode when you were 20 years old, right? And maybe you don't see it that way. That's how I see it. People have missed out on the fullness of me, what I'm capable of. Right. And I mean, the blame game is not helpful. So, sure, it's blaming it on, okay, well, I got this treatment that it could have been approached better. I could have not gone. What I'm talking about is more related to the long term effects. And maybe a lot of people don't relate to that, but I know that there's people who've been on meds for 15, 20 years now at this point, right? I mean, especially if this stuff happens when you're in your 20s, right? I mean, I'm going to be 40 in like 2 years, not even a year and a half, right? So it's like that's a while. The fact that I say it should make you mad, I don't mean there to be shame there. I'm just saying that it frustrates me because the pitch is always like, hey, do these other things that will help you. But no one ever questions the medication. And the side effects get dumbed down, meaning like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a real thing. But, if you get off these, aren't you going to go through what you went through last time? And the actual answer to that is no, because the way that I got off the meds in 2013 was a horrible way to do it. I would never do that again. Right. That was me just doing it on my own. But there is a right way to do it. But speaking for myself, I don't want to go through the steps and the work to do that. So it's just this feeling of being kind of stuck because then now what I'm going to do is just keep complaining about feeling numb because of the medication. And I'm going to get on here and a year from now, I mean, it would be kind of boring if I just keep saying this stuff, like every episode. Like, well, so, and I have already been saying this, I think since July, yeah, or in the fall, and especially this year, 2024 episodes. But like, I hope that makes sense. This is one of those from the heart kind of episodes, I guess. Like, it does frustrate me. I want to live a better life than I'm living. And without shame or condemnation, there is work involved. I think we can say that. And I think that because of the internet and social media, we want to reduce the stigma. Okay, which to me is not a very good goal to have. I think that the stigma is a good thing. And that I might get in trouble for saying that, but it's like, what is the point of repeating a story that's not working and then calling that reducing stigma? Because that's what a lot of people are doing. That's what they really mean. They're saying, well, this is what worked for me, this is what can work for you. Now I do think that maybe that sounds harsh, but I think trying to reduce the stigma is just not the approach. Should be like, what's the best way to get treatment? I mean, what is the way? Maybe treatment is not even the right word because that implies, that it's a disease. But what's the best way to heal? So disappear, if I want to make it here, means to disconnect from the system. I don't really know how to do that, but that's what I'm wanting to work on. So let me know what you guys think about this episode. And I'm saying some stuff that maybe I haven't said before. Look forward for you guys to hear the Michelle episode. That'll be out soon. And all right, guys. Loudernow.podcast.com is my website, and you can go there if you want to see all the episodes. YouTube, I have a lot of stuff on YouTube. If you want to check that out as well, just type in Jared Deal Louder Now podcast and YouTube, and you can find a lot of my talks are on YouTube. Not every single one, but a lot of them are. If that's a way that you like to view and look and watch things. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.